really annoyed my the hosting matters, which as a general rule has been 15 years of no stress hosting for all of my web based needs. Insert plug
Hmm.
here. Um, moved all of my stuff to a new server and completely different file system, variation on, well, it's not cPanel anymore, a bunch of other stuff. And while it is largely functioning the same way it had been, largely, um, so much so that I hadn't realized that much had changed because, WordPress continues to kludge along and all other kind of stuff. When I actually went around to get into the guts of the thing, it proved to be. It took me about 2 hours to figure out where my files were at because
Hmm.
the file structure is phenomenally different than it was previously, and thus also my configuration files that are supposed to be dictating things like file size upload and whatnot for WordPress. So suddenly, I'd hit a patch about a year ago where I had gone, oh, I don't have file size. I finally figured out the configuration to let me like increase the file size limit on my audio files for recordings of these games and stuff like that. And all of that went away again, and I'm back to the system not wanting me to upload files above like 50 megs, which is a problem when I'm doing like audio uploads of a 3 hour long game recording. It's not conducive. Anyway, anywho, neither here nor there, just whinging. We are on session 11,
Yep.
which I know from wrestling with the file for session 10 not so very long ago. And we are, as I believe I said last time, toward the end there, what we were going to do was take stock of the previous session a bit and figure out, what we were going to be getting our XP for and whatnot, and then pretty much plant ourselves at the entrance or the in front of the city. Um,
Hmm.
so if you'll turn in your hymnals to, don't wonder about that.
End of the session. There we go.
Yeah, the oh, that's not basic moves, it's basic cuts. If you turn to the end of session stuff, when you reach the end of session, did we save or protect a community in need? No,
Ghostly Donner Party.
no, I don't think so.
Damn.
Did we strike a blow against the Overlord or their minions? I think probably also no. Um, did we learn more about the world and its peoples? Yes.
Sure.
I think that we learned about one of our past harbingers and a bunch of stuff about this mountain area and some stuff about the orcs and how they deal with how they deal or don't deal with these particular brands of spirits. Um, all kinds of good stuff. Um, the letter column for last issue is full of people theorizing about how on earth did it end up being a ghostly episode, um, and yet at the same time weird that Win uh, didn't seem to want to interact with the ghosts. It's very strange. A lot of theorizing about that in the comments, letter page, whatever. Um, there's always been a comment section, and you always want to avoid reading it. So with one yes, that lets us what? You may choose an option more than once. Okay, chooses one. Each fellowship player refreshes one piece of their gear to its full value. Each fellowship player chooses one stat to heal. Um, the fellowship and the overlord each choose one player to level up. If I remember right, I think the only person who currently has stat damage is Anne. She has courage damaged, I think. Let me look. Her courage was damaged. I
Yeah, we
don't.
ended up with a bunch. We ended up with a bunch of healing last time, didn't we? Or was that the previous one?
I think it was the previous one.
Yeah.
She had maybe I'm mistaken. But I thought she had courage damage. I don't see it now, so maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know if people have any other gear that they have used specifically.
Yes, Anne had damaged courage.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't have.
It was. I made a note of it at the end of the notes for last time.
I
I gave
will.
up. I gave up my halfling lunch, and
Right.
Anne has damaged courage.
Right. I don't know if anybody else had any resources or anything used, either from that last session or previously still lingering.
I'm full up on everything, so I'm good to use that advance however you folks want.
Rowan, where are you? How are you with stuff?
I am fairly good at most everything.
And I think
That's just a statement of fact right there.
Yeah.
But
and Win doesn't
no,
have Win doesn't have anything, so he can't damage it. No, it's not quite right. But his resources are strange, and I don't think any of them are damaged at this point anyway.
no.
So I'm not sure. I feel like it's kind of up to you guys a little bit.
I would just soon take the advance and
Figure out somebody to go up.
Yeah.
What say you? Speak. It'll be one of you guys and the Overlord because I'm a dirty greedy bastard.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, you guys figure out who's going to level, and I am going to grab the wrong rule book. Legacy Life Amongst the Ruins will do me little good at this point. And
I don't know if we fuck up bad enough.
I mean, it's a remarkably. I will say this, and this is going to mean nothing to anybody but Dave, but man, it would do Galactic really well. It's got a whole thing where like you run your family as, and then you occasionally zoom into your main character, who's the one that your family cares about, generation to generation and whatnot. And there's a spin version of it that is a spin-off version of it that is captain of a ship. And when you're playing your bit, everybody else makes sort of quick characters to be in your family. And when you're playing, maybe not the captain of your ship, but somebody on the ship's crew for the various ships that are going about the family ships or whatever that are going about their business, and this one sort of, and honestly, Galactic is post-apocalyptic. You make other crew members, and it's very much the lineup the way that Galactic set it up.
I loved that mechanic in
I
Galactic.
liked it so much. It's
It was a
great.
lot of
It's
fun.
lovely troop play. Good stuff. All right, I'm looking at Overlord stuff. Where am I looking? Probably not there. Those are all set piece things. Nope. Nope.
Well, fellow players, who's advancing?
Are we all even at the moment?
Everyone is the
I'm
same
looking,
level.
everyone looks like they're 3. So
I mean,
Rowan shows us 2.
I'm 2. I only have 2 advances.
really?
Oh, then it's you.
Then it's you. It has to be you, actually, I think, mechanically.
It has.
Wait, are you level 2 or have you got 2 advances?
I have 2 advances.
2 advances.
Which
So
So you start level 1, and that should have taken you up to level 3.
You have
well,
2.
then I'm level 3.
You're the same as everybody
Okay.
else. I was going to say, I thought we had everybody.
For some reason, I thought that ticked up whenever.
now you have to manually
Do the thing.
do the thing.
Do the thing. Oh, good lord. Where is the advances for that thing?
I should go back and look at what happened last time and see who it makes
Well,
sense for.
Carabas had all the
Carabas had his little side adventure.
the Ghostly Donner Party. Rowan, I think, probably rather centrally dealt with the Ghostly Harbinger, Wynn and Wynn and Viren's had kind of gone a hunting for they were the ones that sort of originally led people sort of off the trail and then led people back really. Anne was with them as well, I should say. So that was kind of like, I don't know that they didn't really end up hitting anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's not Viren's because he didn't do that much.
Yeah.
I would probably give it to Rowan just as a
have
given the involvement with the other Harbinger stuff.
wizard. It's probably the
Rowan
most.
was very bad.
It's probably the most. I kind of go with Dave I agree with Dave, in that it's sort of like of the two like sort of big encounters that happened last session, that was the one that was sort of most central to sort of the stuff going on, or so it initially seems. Maybe the Ghostly Downer Party will be the big thing later. Who can say?
So, Rowan,
Do you think?
I'll take it.
so now you'll be level 4.
Where is the level up? Dang it! Where the heck is the level up move? Or at least,
Are you looking
oh, there
at
it
the
is.
book, or are you-
I see it. At the book. When you level up, increase your level by 1, then do all of the following.
Oh, by the way, figure I should let you guys know this in case anyone wasn't watching. Book 2 of Fellowship just got released this week.
Book 2?
Ooh.
Yep. Inverse Fellowship.
Oh, question mark?
Lena
Uh,
Inverse?
'cause They're doing 2 other books other than.
So what's is this just Inverse World? Because I remember these guys did Inverse World once upon a time.
It's Inverse World for Fellowship.
Interesting. All right. Choose one. Gain an Overlord custom. All right. I'm so tempted to pick up Team Rocket as a custom. Just because of the name.
I mean,
Blasting
what
off.
isn't good about taking a whole bunch of like little followers?
Choose up to 3
Yeah.
minions from your army and name them. When working as a group, they cannot be damaged or destroyed. Whenever one of them would be, they all retreat from the scene. This group will tenaciously follow the Fellowship for the rest of the campaign, informing you of where they are and what they've done recently. If they recruit them as companions, it is only temporary. You can erase all bonds the Fellowship holds with them at any time.
What's not to enjoy?
So the quirky mini boss squad is what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Quirky and mildly annoying.
the old name for them, the Goldfish Poop Gang,
Oh my god.
because they follow you
Sure.
like poop.
Yeah. Hmm. You know what? Maybe I'll do that. I'm not gonna do Team Rocket yet. I don't think I have enough minions introduced to make one of them a Team Rocket group. Hmm. Well, I think I have Sibyllus the Whisperer. So I think thanks to Sibilis, I think I am going to pick up. I'm going to take an advance of the Warmonger and pick another Overlord army. Since I am the Corruptor. I'm going to pick the Scourge. You and your army spread corruption and blight. Those tainted by it join you in your cause. Tell us how your blight spreads and what it looks like. Your blight leaves corrupted zones, corrupted creatures, and, well, I'm not, maybe undead warriors, but I think that's more of a, takes a little time. But it's going to have something to do with Sibilis's little whispering campaign. So, yes, we'll do that as, where is my Ursula? Where she be? All right. That's the first thing I'm supposed to do. Forge a bond with anyone, fellowship or otherwise. The bond you write is an immutable truth about them, and you can command lore about anyone you have a bond with who's not part of the fellowship. I'm willing to take suggestions here, or begging to take suggestions. Forge a bond with anyone, fellowship or otherwise. I have a bond with Sibilis. I could have a bond with this city, I guess, but that seems a little, I mean, it's useful, I guess.
I don't know if you're going to use it for this, but I'll just mention that there's a post up on various orc clans, and two
Oh.
of them have an explicit note saying potential targets for the corruptor.
And I was planning on doing the orcs, like getting to the orc lands next. So yes, thank you for reminding
Doesn't
me.
have to
of
be
that.
now, but I just figured I should call attention to
No,
that.
that's a good idea. I might do the city this time. Test. Let me look here. I've got so much to catch up on here, guys. I've been terrible. Fellowship memes. How did I miss that? Oh, there we go. List of orc clans. I think that's a missed. We have a missed opportunity here, not to command lore about ghosts as far as everybody.
I have
Post is still there if anybody wants to jump in on
It's
it.
good stuff.
partially written out.
Yeah,
I just
I,
never went through and finished it, so move on me for being lazy.
hadn't noticed it until
Just now.
today.
I got to read the fellowship memes a little bit later. Those are good. Haunted Mountains. Let's work on. Oh, so okay. We'll deal with that later. But for now, I think my bond. Oh, I've already have a bond. I did a bond with the people of Chains Cross last time I had the ability to do a bond. I destroyed Wynn's hometown. I killed someone important to Viren's. Carabas knows the details of my previous defeat. Rowan's people serve me now. Only Wrangler Ann knows my weakness. Sifley betrayed everything they loved to serve me. Eki of Bornair is the most skilled of my harbingers. Sibilis the Whisperer is obsessed with me. People of Chains Cross, cast me out in a time of weakness.
And if you really want to grind someone's gears, have a human king, or someone who now aspires to kingship.
Hmm.
It sounds like a good corrupting thing to do.
Yeah. Whatever. I'll do another bond with these guys. So let me see. Where'd my fancy little map of the city go? Where did that get off to? My bond is I know the heart of High Mayor Edgar Vergon of Chains Cross. And advance your plans. So I've got two that are kind of centered on this city, one having to do with its people, one having to do with its with the city itself, with the edifice of the city itself. And I think I am going to advance the plan having to do with its people and their groveling, inevitable subjugation. So we will just tick that little thing along for that, making a note. For those of you looking to figure out what the heck that means, it's on the main book, in the second edition of the book. It's in page 182. Creating a plan, beginning a plan, executing a plan, and victory. I believe that puts the corrupting the people at sort of level 2, or executing the plan. Forces are taking action. The Fellowship will hear about what we're up to. Stopping me now would be very difficult. Rowan, what did you end up doing? What coolness did you do?
I haven't picked yet.
What?
I was looking through my options because I have many.
Do you?
I have many options.
Who's Ramal? Is Ramal your stone ferret? Rock ferret?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Just looking at your sheet. So, while you're looking,
do not hold up things on
no,
my behalf.
I am pondering how to phrase this question. Virens, I'm looking for some feature of the mountains that you espy, while the spirits of the mountains, this well, as Dave put it, the ghostly Donner Pottery leads you towards the city, that you spot either nearby or at a distance, or that they lead you basically straight through I'm suddenly struck by that one scene from Young Guns. We're in the spirit realm. That the spirits help you, either lead you past or lead you around, or in some way, shape, or form help you avoid that otherwise you can sort of look at it and go, yeah, if we'd been doing this by ourselves, this would have sucked, or it would have been terribly challenging, or it would have been, something like that. From Viren's point of view, not so much a long journey thing. I'm just kind of curious about something that we saw.
I'm going to say it's something that's subtle, but that a hunter would notice, which is the prevalence of small prey animals just kind of being chill here. And the reason they're being chill here is that they can afford to be.
Really? There's no predators in the area? Is that what that's implying?
Yeah, like whatever is driving the fear and the death in this mountain, it's not here. We've been taken to a safe spot.
Oh, okay. So they've gotten you out of that sort of that whirlpool of despair.
Yep.
Cool. How do you perceive the ghosts, the spirits, personally? I mean, you may need to kind of pull this back to a meta level, because, I mean, how do we see you seeing the ghost differently? If we see things from Wynn's point of view for a second, how do the ghosts look to him as opposed to the rather classically ephemeral, wispy, somewhat hard to perceive way that everybody else seems to see them and that you would expect to see them? How do they look to you?
They look, for the most part, how they appeared in life. Just solid. They're there, but
Are there-
there's
Go ahead.
a sense of like shadow. There's not, the fading in and out. They're there, but they have been kind of marked by death.
I see. So you see the signs of whatever it was that killed them, or whatever
No.
caused their death, or anything like that, or no?
No, it's how they appeared in life and how they remember appeared in life. So
That whole residual self-image kind of thing.
yeah, there may be someone who died very old, but they remember themselves as they were younger. And
Oh, interesting. Okay.
so similar to how I appear, how I did when I was alive, it's versus a pile of dust.
I
It's,
told you, they're memories.
so it's how the mind remembers them being, but there's some kind of almost shadow around them that shows how they've been marked by death.
So yeah, still in some way they've got like some. So looking at them standing next to like Carabas or something like that, they still look different. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, but not in the
Not to the degree that,
traditional.
yeah, not to the degree that Carabas would think that they look different, maybe, or something like that. Is
Yeah.
that fair? Okay. Cool. Cool. And speaking of Carabas, Could you tell me real quick about the young lady that has been sort of nominated as the one who talks to you the most? Why her? Several of the rest of the family that are traveling with you don't speak directly. Like they say something to her that you can't hear, and then she'll turn and say it to you. So it's not like you don't understand the language. You literally just don't hear them. So what's tell us just a bit more about that young girl, younger girl or girl, just full stop, if you would. I stumped Dave. Or he's on mute.
I'm sorry. Yes, I was on mute, musing aloud. Um, well, given my people's belief in reincarnation and parallel belief that what others see as these kind of separate entities as ghosts versus there being sort of animated memories of something that was there. I would say it's because she is more real, and perhaps her spirit has passed on through enough lives to have left a more solid memory in this place, so that she is closer to the rest, to me, certainly as the very first person that I am, and therefore can communicate in a way that the others, which are just kind of much dimmer, more superficial memories.
So from
Cannot.
Carabas's point of view, the reason that she's like that is because although she is the youngest appearing, she's actually the oldest of that lot. Sort of.
Right. The soul that she was, and that there's just now a memory of here, had gone through prior reincarnations, such that
she's sort of effectively the oldest spirit.
She's the oldest spirit there, and therefore more solid.
Interesting.
Or if not spirit, the strongest memory there.
So that's how Carabas sees them, as like memories.
Yes.
The spirits are
because her spirit has actually moved on to whatever next life that she lives in. Obviously.
Really?
Well, yeah.
So
that's the way it works.
They're simultaneously here, but also they have moved on and are already living their next thing, whatever that.
Yeah, it's difficult to explain to humans. I mean, just accept the word of one who has this kind of wisdom and knowledge of the Catlings.
It's biting off so many comments here. That's good stuff. I like it. Okay, cool. So Rowan, first of all, Rowan, do you know what you're doing? I'm going to ask that again first. Go further.
Vaguely.
No big if you don't. That's fine.
As I say, I kind of know what I want to do. I don't know how it will be something that will come up, or something that will be appropriate to show up at this given point.
That's totally fine. Fine by me. If it doesn't. If you'd rather wait on that. It is good for me. This will be our first time to really interact, I think, with the flying ships that ferry people up we've seen them in the distance a couple times, but we haven't actually interacted with them as such
So
before.
we're not going to actually hike up the chains.
No, we're not going to actually hike up the chains. As I mean, you may be fleeing down the chains at some point in time, but to this point, you're not actually hiking up them. So I was wondering, since Bill, you kind of came up with these things initially, I was wondering if you want to sort of give us the color text on this thing, as we're waiting for the fairies to show up. Fairy with an ERR, not AIR. As we're waiting for the fairies to show up for this and kind of bear us hence. What do these things look like? Like, what's the?
So they could actually look like almost anything in at least in the original idea that I had. What happens is that these floating islands have this certain stone that is buoyed up by ley line energy, and what people can do is to mine that or extract it or something, and basically build this into like basically a really kind of primitive gyroscope that will hold some sort of platform steady, and you can build anything around that platform. The analogy that I had was to sailing ships. I don't know how much water we have in this world, but these are basically just ways for people and cargo and things to move from one place to another, and they're built in whatever aesthetic the local populace has in mind. They can be hand cranked, they can be turned with some sort of steam engine, they can be, even have, a bunch of slaves turning a wheel slowly, or animals, kind of yoked to something. There are so many different ways to basically propel these things that whatever they actually look like is really going to tell you more about the area here than anything else. So what sort of tech level these people have,
Sure. I like
what
that.
sort of raw building materials they like, it's all going to be that.
So, luckily, I mean, in this area at least, wood is quite plentiful in the sense that there's a lot of pine. The boats aren't made, the ships themselves aren't made for truly long-lasting use. I would say just because they're made from pine, and pine's not a particularly hard wood. You do get some variations that are, but and you get and you can tell the ships that are perhaps made from the harder, longer lasting woods that there's more craftsmanship that goes into those particular craft than in other cases. In many cases, it's almost the ship in question. The ships are almost barge-like, garbage scow, or an open longboat, oversized canoes, really, because they're really, they might last a season or 5 or something like that, and then the core of the thing, the core of the ship will be, the ship will be stripped away, and a new core will be, or the core will be built into a new sort of chassis. So their idea is that they're keeping this, and for those more common craft that are just daily going up and down, and essentially meant, and this is sort of a trading, at least in part, a city of guilds and trade and craftsmen and that sort of thing. Shipping quantity is more important, and lots of open space, that kind of thing. So not building big elaborate sky ships or anything like that. It's just not the point. They're meant to carry lots of stuff. They're the open flatbed trailers of sky ships. And as such, the sort of mounting chassis for the crystals, the buoyant crystals that these things are built around, is frequently visible and exposed. So you get kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Gyroscope's pretty good. I mean, if you think about those kind of gyroscopes you can get in novelty toy stores and stuff like that with that kind of exposed piping and stuff like that. But really, really kind of a more permanent metal, frequently elements of copper in it.
Yeah, the word I was
Scaffolding.
actually thinking of was a gimbal mount or a gimbal mount.
Yeah, there you go. Like a gimbal mount, somewhat stiffened. Like it'll be twisted and turned frequently manually or with wheels and cranks and that sort of thing. So left freeform, it'll pivot like a gimbal mount, or that thing that you can strap somebody into and spin them around to check their ability to reacquire the horizon line, stuff like that, that kind of deal. It could work that way, but more frequently what you see with these things is to adjust the level of the ship, the tilt of the ship, and that sort of thing, and frequently to counterbalance whatever fans or propellers or just open sails that they have. They have to kind of counterbalance the ship a little bit. They'll be turned a certain direction to get the right angle on the ship with the cranks, and they'll be kind of locked into that position. So in the same way with seaborne vessels, where you do slight like 5-degree, 3-degree, 10-degree adjustments on the sails and so forth, they kind of use the gimbal mount for that, while locking it, move it slightly, lock it in place, or crank it a couple degrees and lock it in place. So you get like the turn cranks and toothed wheels where you can like sort of clank, 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 and then stop it, and then you get a release and let it crank back a couple, or ratchet back, that sort of thing.
Capstans.
And you can tell that the experienced passengers don't even panic whenever there's a shift or shutter in the assembly. They're just like, yeah, we know this is coming.
Right.
The newbies are always like, oh, this is going to fall.
Yeah. Well, it's that sense of, I mean, how well attached to this whole thing is this old rickety softwood pine, clearly warping over exposure, from exposure to weather, ship, because the part that'll float is the gimbal mount and the stone that's in it, and the ship itself could just tear loose and fall. There's nothing to stop it. And especially not, and it's not a particularly comforting thing that these things tend to be loaded pretty heavy, because again, it's about moving stuff up and moving stuff down. There are much finer, versions of these ships, but I mean, yeah, I think about, battles in the air with these things, these kind, just generally airships, and hitting the center isn't necessarily going to damage its ability to fly, other than the fact that if you do enough structural damage, the whole freaking mount for the gem or the crystal will just tear loose, and it'll be sailing up into the sky while the ship just falls away from it. That could be, well, that's a terrible way to go. Terrible way to go down. Anyway, so generally speaking, very workmanlike, straightforward craft meant for carrying, large masses. They don't overload because that's not profitable for anybody, and it is a trade and to a certain extent tourist and travel city. It's propulsion is a mixture of sort of smaller jig sails and stuff just to catch wind for propulsion, that kind of deal. Obviously counterbalanced against the gem, and then barring that, I'm gonna go with sort of like a propeller, almost, kind of a cloth windmill, stiffened cloth kind of windmill sort of propeller that's probably turned with day laborers kind of a thing. You get a couple of folks in the back, call it 10 guys. It's a 10-man cargo sloop or something like that, and you've got 10 guys in the back, 5 on the side that are doing kind of what looks exactly like a gear shaft, one of those like weird, certainly not straight, kind of a deal where they're all kind of hand cranking to keep the thing spinning around and turning the propellers and stuff for various things. Miserable work. They're day laborers because you don't get anybody who does that for very long, but glorious arm strength.
I would like to suggest that the people who actually get paid for transit are those guys, though. Like,
they get
there's really nobody else can pay here. So if you want to make money and you got muscles, like,
it's good
there you
money.
go.
It's good money, but it does tend to wear a guy out, or woman.
That's one of the reasons I mentioned draft animals or something similar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those almost. It strikes me somewhat as a the interstellar ship problem. You can get anywhere, but a lot of your engine ends up pushing the fuel that drives the engine. So how much can you really put on the ship in terms of the whole physics problem, right? So yeah, the easier thing is draft animals or something to drive the propulsion, but yeah, the most efficient thing would be like 4 oxen kind of a deal on like some sort of weird like a Conan like from the first movie, like turning a wheel kind of a thing. But then you're giving up half the ship to the 4 oxen that are moving the ship. Super efficient, but it better be, because now you've lost a lot of your space, or you're building a more complicated ship that has like the animals down in a lower area of the ship and the cargo sort of all up on deck. And you'll certainly see those, a lot of variations. I think one of the things I like about this is you're never going to see more than 1 or 2 ships that look very much like each other. There's no hard and fast agreed upon best way to do this, and everyone's looking for their best angle and making use of what assets they do. If you happen to have access to, with no real overhead other than feed, no purchasing required, a bunch of draft animals, well, then you're going to use those and find it to be the best way that you can get the job done. Whereas if you happen to be the organizer of some union or whatever, and as noted, the city loves its small organizations, but some version of the Romans Guild, and you're one of the ships that's owned and operated by that guild, then that's the best way to do it. And livestock are for suckers, because you get more space on these ships that aren't using them. And they argue back and forth and shout insults back and forth as they're loading on and taking shipments and that sort of thing. And there is stuff coming in, although nobody really comes from the direction that you guys ended up coming from. There's bigger roads, better traveled roads, straighter roads coming in from the direction of the Tuscan Empire. Solve problems by going through them, that sort of thing. So there's certainly trade coming from multiple routes. I'd say, several, 2 or 3 different major routes that are coming up to the city and where the trade takes place and that sort of thing. Anyway, so you guys find yourself probably on relatively nondescript thing being run by, owned and operated by, as you say, the guys who are doing the propulsion and so forth, because they're not, it's a union. It's a Romans union kind of thing. So, they're not gonna, they get paid well for the backbreaking work that they do. fee is basically meaningless for getting up into the thing because they're basically charging you for the space that you take up, which isn't much. Well, actually, I take that back because you do have some, horses and that sort of thing with you. So there's a
Yeah.
few different kinds of ships that for that. So anyway, it's obviously no great thing to get up into the place. Caribus, you're probably more than a little bit aware of how much the wood is creaking as the crystal is as the moorings are cast off and the thing kind of it creaks more honestly when it's on the ground and held in place than when it lifts up. It's fascinating way that the whole thing is handled honestly, to keep it from how does it rise, how does it rise gradually, all of that stuff being manipulated by a guy or two that are really built. I mean, they're clearly guys who once worked the propellers directly and still do a lot of muscular work moving the gimbal around, but are doing a lot of careful and quick, not even back of the map. They're just eyeballing what must be very precise calculations to get this thing to rise at the steady, even pace, to keep the boat level from what is essentially one single point of balance on a long ship. Why the things are still shaped like boats, beggars the imagination, but people just seem to lean toward that. But yeah, they definitely certainly know their work. It's quite impressive, honestly. How good they are at it, that sort of thing. How many of these guys, Virens, do you think are orcs doing this sort of work, having found this sort of work sort of outside of the Empire?
I mean, it's a living, so if they're big and they're strong, then this is what they want to do.
I mean, it may, yeah, to a certain extent, sort of superficially seems to suit them. Are there? I mean, it certainly. I mean, it's likely. Are there in this case orcs? And if so, how are they reacting to somebody who's still clearly a member of the sort of I guess the spear of the Empire?
So they would, I mean, whether they're allied with the Empire or not, they're basically making their bread and butter by doing this.
Yeah.
So in that sense,
call them
the
expatriates.
Empire has no problem with them. Yeah, and they would probably not have a problem with the Empire in that the Empire is not like a conquering, honor-bound, like expansive, whatever Anne may say, Colossus that's just going to steamroll the world. They're really there for like the protection and the defense of orcs as a people, and in that sense, they're kind of like Orc Incorporated, the best that orcs can be and do, but not everybody's on board with that. So they're probably, depending on their individual attitudes, either like, okay, this guy's with, this came from Fosker, he's a member of one of the well-known clans, or maybe they disagreed with the Empire and they're like, oh, it's you. But I think there's as many reasons to leave the Empire as there are orcs, and so individually there might be some here who are like, I went my own way, I don't like you. I think they're going to be much more individualistic than they are going to be responding to him as an orc, if that makes sense. But there are probably orcs here doing this.
Okay. All right. Think. Bring you up. Fascinating little place. You're brought into, I mean, as we've kind of looked at the the city itself, it's it's a great big rock, and they've built a thing on top of it. So where you kind of come in is where you can come in. It seems as though, in the same way that the ship's designs are all somewhat different, individualistic, how they decide to deliver their wares to the city. While there are certain places that they do and don't come in, very very few people are coming in on the west side of the city, for example. Really the north. They tend to gravitate more on the south and east sides of the city. And I think they bring you into down here. Kind of a, if you look at how the city is kind of laid out there, outside of the city itself, there's sort of like flat expanses of, outside of where the buildings really come up, and that's where the ships tend to dock, is just outside of these. I use the term walls loosely because it's really not that, but outside of the buildings proper. This particular area, thick with shrubbery, bushes and stuff, where you sort of each landing area has been cleared, and there's paths straight that lead straight to the entrances to the rest of the city. There's also buildings out here in this area, but they're smaller. They're more temporary, wooden rather than the carved straight from the stone, or taken from built of the carved stone of the city itself. So the boat will set down there next to one of these huts or cabins. I guess cabins might work pretty well in amongst these, the area known as the Lilacs for, kind of obvious reasons in this case. Although it's not just those kinds of bushes here. You've got lots of mixes of weird like shrubbery, mostly, see lilac bushes like 5, 6, 7, 8 feet tall. Also, you've got your like bushes with red berries on them that the entire every stem of the bush is spiny and thorny and just not something you would want to stumble into. So the berries must be good because the bushes themselves are horrible. Things of that nature, and it's really all just it isn't so it's none of it is groomed so much as hacked back from paths, and walkways, landing pads, and the houses and stuff like that. It's nobody seems to be. This stuff was already here, and it's simply been cut back enough to give people a place to land and do their business and stuff. They collect what payment they need to for this, and you find yourself finally actually atop the city. Now, has anybody ever been here before? I can't remember if Wynn had previously, if Rowan has, or only read of it or heard his one of his mentors talking of it.
I think Rowan. I think based on my prophecy, I think Rowan had been there, so that he recognized where it was.
Right. Knew it well enough to at least know. What were you doing here last time? Was it a long while ago? Is this since you've been on walkabout or farther back?
Yep. Nope. On walkabout through his days of traveling.
I see. Okay. What's your favorite thing about this place? Why come here as an individual traveler with we got trade and that sort of thing?
Well, it is a crossroads of many places, and you can go many places from it.
Okay. Good to know. What's your least favorite thing about it?
Too many people.
So useful as a crossroads, but unfortunately all the bad sides of the crossroads. When had you ever been here before? Either, well, obviously not since the fall of the city, but before the fall of the city, for the fall of the empire, or not since then, obviously, because you were sort of at the capital city, and I didn't know if you were ever out this far.
No. We generally stayed away.
Oh, that's right, because you had been there and then had decided that it wasn't uh it was verboten. Did we ever get into why that was? Like what it was that made the people decide that we just weren't going to be here anymore?
Yes, I wrote a campfire tales of it.
Right. Right.
It was
One
the,
second.
the wind god, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
we
you pissed
Yeah.
off a wind god.
Yeah.
And rather than apologize or make it better, it was just like, "Yep, we're just done. We're just not going to do
Oh.
anything with them anymore."
You know, when you have a god angry with you,
It's better to just blow him off.
I was going to say it behooves you to leave their vicinity, but
Just ghost
go
him.
ahead, make your pun.
Just
Thank you.
just ghost him. That certainly won't turn around and bite you. Okay.
So, no, I would not have been here before.
One moment. I need to greet an exhausted looking human here. One moment.
That's
Ow.
fair.
So how was your day today, James?
Stressful, but only in my own head. I basically didn't leave my room except for meals, but especially at the beginning of the day, I'm like, no, I really should go out and do all these things. Um, and then was getting stressed out by that, and finally convinced myself that I could rest given all the driving that had been done.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I managed to make it back to the colleges in one piece.
I'm glad. Sounds like there was at least one moment of excitement.
Oh no, there was more than one.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, I accidentally, cause I know you said stay on the 57, but then I was like, don't go on to the 210, but it says 10, and I'm pretty sure those are the same, but like, I was concerned, so I just got off where Google told me, which was onto the 10.
Oh no.
And right as I got onto it, the next exit, there was like police cars there, and it caused, so like as soon as I got on, it was just dead stop. And that's when I
Fairports
saw the
Drive.
car for the first time.
Oh.
But luckily it cleared up, and like I was able to get back into it. And then I stalled the car for the second time getting off the freeway because it was like the stop, and then whatever. And I stalled the car, and I'm like, whoops, sorry people behind me. And then at one of these stops, yeah, so I just stalled the 2 times. Then at one of the stops, I forgot to shift into first, so I was trying to. So actually, no, I managed to start the car from a stop into second, and then
It's doable.
I reached down and I'm like, oh, that's not the right spot. Whoops.
That's why it felt like that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
you can actually start a manual or get going at it from a dead stop in second. It's just not as easy.
And I know you can also do it from third, from the story Mom tells of the car progressively losing its gears as they drove.
I mean, you can do it from third. It's not fun for anybody. Once you get in third, you're just not. I'll run over a guy before I go back. You know, just going. It's all just going.
Yeah, I managed to on the drive out, except for after I dropped Dad off at the airport, managed to in multiple almost stop and go traffics not stop the car.
Nice.
Hey, your pull out there from the airport was perfect.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, you made the leaving the airport seem a lot more complicated than it was because I
Okay.
do remember. Well, no, because I do remember, like, oh yes, this is the way you get out of John Wayne.
Okay.
I do have memories back from when Mormon Farfar were in Orange County.
Well, but it's different when you're writing than when you're driving. So
Yeah, but I mean, you see the access tunnel enough times.
okay. Good. Well, I'm glad that part wasn't difficult. Ish. As.
We're fine.
Yay. Well, be sure and go out and do some practicing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Don't lose that momentum.
All right. So, Rowan, your prophecy, well, aside from they're here and they're doing something with the city, was what precisely? Or was that pretty much it? They're here and they're doing something with the city.
They're here and they were talking to a group of people. But
Right.
we don't know anything about the group of people.
Okay.
Per the limits of my move.
Gotcha. As previously mentioned, the overlords made moves forward on sort of subjugating the people of the city and bringing them, in truly humiliating fashion under her thumb. As you're moving into the city, and we're heading from, well, as you've been here before, so to break this down very, very broadly, from the Lilacs, you've got access to immediate access into the Temple District, which I'm kind of putting a little bit in air quotes. The Black Web, which is where a lot of the markets and trading and whatnot takes place. The Emerald Pit, I leave as an exercise to the explorer, and the Fog Walk down here. So my question really to anybody, but I'm initially posing it to Rowan, with whoever chiming in is, which direction are you initially heading, and what's the first sign that you can tell something is subtly but pervasively amiss with the population of the city? The kind of thing that they don't even necessarily, they may not even necessarily notice in many cases. So I guess which direction you're going, and how can you tell something's wrong? And that may not be Rowan that picks up on that.
Well,
For all I know, they smell weird Reverans. I don't know.
I will say, if no one disagrees, we're heading towards the Black Web, for that is where I saw them. I'll leave the
Sure.
I'll leave the why everything seems kind of sketchy to everyone else.
And really, there's 100 different ways that there could be signs, so anybody could
The
pick up
the
on
city
this.
seems quieter than it should be. I mean, I've been in human cities. There's always chatter. Everybody has something to say. They're yelling about product stuff. It just seems more subdued, more quiet.
And I'd say it gets quieter. Like when you're out here with the boats and stuff, and they're fairly spread out, and the bushes, the various shrubberies. I don't know why I find that funny, but the shrubberies and whatnot are all about and that sort of thing. It seems like it should be quieter and get noisier as you get to city. It seems almost the other way around. It's noisy as a docks in many ways out here, and as you get closer to the city, it does seem to become more, yeah, that subdued kind of thing. So that's interesting. I like that. It's good stuff. You say you saw them in the black web. Are you sure? We gotta see what this is. Dave's
Sure-ish.
shores with want a shrubbery. Thank you.
Yeah, was also looking for gifts there.
I like all the pictures. Very nice. Sure-ish. So I will say in this city, in Chains Crossing, I mean, while this is ostensibly the Temple District, the uh, it's rather businesslike in its way of handling tithing, prayer, demonstrations of supplication, blessings and whatnot, and it blends, shall we say, in a complementary fashion, in as nice a way as possible. It blends rather seamlessly with the more mercantile black web to the west and north. It's a bit hard to tell, I would say, where one ends and the other one begins, as far as that goes. And it's not particularly difficult coming from the direction that you're coming from, really, to kind of skirt the temples a bit to get to the black webs. I feel as though Rowan, having had the vision, needs to be the one that sort of figures out, does a bit of it was the vision of Sibyllus that you had somewhat, wasn't it? I mean, I know I gave you that as a scene, but I guess I should double check with you. Do you think that Rowan actually had a vision, or is that just me doing a cutscene?
It was you doing a cutscene. I see Rowan's thing more being like
Certain signs or
thoughts and ideas pulled from sand, dust in the wind.
sort of individual images, not so much a moving vision, but like certain landmarks, I guess, or objects, or a certain statue.
Points of data.
Okay. Transition is gradual. Nice. Subtle. Okay. So we're gonna go to I feel like this would be kind of a look closely sort of thing to kind of figure out, like trying to get the reality of the city to align with the flashes and imagery in your vision, to get some sense of, well, okay, what I was thinking of was right here. I don't know if that tracks. What do you think? And there's lots of other ways of I mean, really the weirdness, just the way that people are acting somewhat subdued, is there's lots of ways to kind of pick that apart. It could be, you know, Carabas trying to get a beat on that. And honestly, but you know, Rowan certainly has like kind of a line on this kind of thing. What do you guys want to do? What are you trying to figure out?
As I was like, I will certainly look closely at things.
Okay.
Not particularly good at it, but you know.
Yeah.
Let's start things off with a 4.
Let's say things up. Say that again.
I said let's start things off with like a 4 or
Okay.
a 3.
Just like see what we get.
So
Everyone's looking at their cell phones. They're not cell phones. They're sort of crystal slates, approximately the palm, the size of your hand, flattened out. And
with the fellowship here, I'm gonna guess somebody should be able to help me out here.
But that, I mean, it's fine with me. Certainly, Carabas has sort of noted that things are a bit off.
Yeah. What is it precisely you're trying to do?
He's looking for mutual bonds for Rolling with Hope. Is that right?
Yep.
Variance does not have mutual bonds, but he has a bond towards Rowan. So I don't think
I have a bond with you.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't have one back. Oh,
Oh.
you do? Wait. What do you have?
I trust Varens to do what must be done.
Interesting.
Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, then I do have a mutual bond with you.
Okay.
Whether or not Virence, what's your bond with Rowan?
I would give my life for Rowan green-handed without a thought.
I think. I mean, those bonds are awesome. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter that they're sort of tonally in sync with the kind of stuff that you're doing. That feels like the kind of bonds that would absolutely like kick ass when it's like.
Actually, no. I
a
can tell you
conflicting
how this would
situation.
work.
But go ahead.
I want to pitch something to you as a player. So we understand that this place is being seduced by this orator character whose name now escapes me. I'm sorry.
Sibyllus.
Thank you, Sibyllus. We were just attacked by another Harbinger. We know the Harbingers as a group are basically working for the Overlord.
Yes.
Why would they not be subtly trying to go after the last free Harbinger who just walked into their city? And it seems reasonable that they would. Are you with me so far?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I want to say that the thing that, or a thing that seems weird and will definitely get Viren's attention is that there are a lot of people who are doing their best not to stare at our group. They're not staring at the ghost. They're not staring at the catling. They're staring at the Harbinger. And every so often...
Really pointedly not staring.
Yeah. And there will be people who make signs of warding off the evil eye. These people ought not know these gestures.
Mm. Well, and James
so as a
Crossing is
result-
general not generally considered to be a superstitious. It's a very secular city, for all that they have a temple district.
We just mentioned that there is literally a temple district here.
Yeah.
So in that sense, a temple to what?
Yeah.
But they're all making the same gesture.
Oh wow. Interesting.
And so to me, that means that Varens is going to be on guard and be like, are we about to be attacked? So I think he's going to kind of start bodyguarding for Rowan, freeing Rowan up to try to figure out what's going on. Does that sound okay?
That's absolutely sounds fine to me. Yes.
Rowan, are you okay with that?
I'm perfectly fine with that.
The only reason I was looking at, with the possibly another bond applying would be like Carabas with his weird, Rowan thinks he has mystical senses or something like that. I kind of recall, and asking him
my successful lie to Rowan. Oh
See,
yeah,
they-
I can totally tell what's going
See
on.
if anything smells wrong to you around here. I'm trying to get a bead on where we need to be, and but this angle, which I am 100% behind, sort of immediately ups the tension in that the city itself, or at least certain areas of the city, seem to be immediately antithetical, or just there's a certain amount of sort of Rowan pointed animosity in certain areas. It's not everywhere. It's not like the boatmen were initially like responding to you in this way, but it's certainly out there. So let me see. Get a little drawing here. Kind of moving up this way into the district area. What specifically? Give me one thing, Rowan, that you were sort of the image that you have in your head that made you think it's in the merchant district, or it's in the temple district, or it's in that weird area that they've made.
I'm just kind of imagining like a bazaar type area for this place where you have like the stalls with like the tarps over the top of them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and so in his vision he saw those, and whatever thing that Siblis
Yeah, Siblis. SIB.
Siblis was
Yeah, go ahead.
Siblis was standing on in order to talk to all these people.
He was sort of on the edge of a dried up fountain. Like the edge of the fountain, like where you would sit, he's standing on it. The fountain itself having once had a figure in it, and the figure being kind of broken off. No longer there.
So, time to find a fountain.
Or figure out where the heck it's at. All right, so you were going to do, yeah, and yes, absolutely roll. You already did roll sense with your advantage. Lovely, a lovely 11. All right, so I think that's 3 questions for you.
It is,
3
and
questions from the list.
feel free to pipe in, guys, if you have anything you want to know.
I direct you towards the basic move of look closely, because there may be some good stuff to ask there.
But obviously, let's see. The easiest question to ask is something hidden or out of place? If so, what looks suspicious?
Something hidden or out of place. I'm kind of going a little bit off of what not kind of
So
kind of going off of what Bill said. So suspicious or out of place is generally speaking. This is a trading hub. It's a independent. It's truly an independent city. The city is practically impossible to take. Bringing up forces to this thing that aren't aligned with the ley lines that the city's on. I mean, no one's going to let you just sit down below and build boats that'll let you, build ships that'll let you, come up here because you need the right attuned stones, blah 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 blah. So as an independent state, it really is. It's an independent city. It's attitude-wise a very independent city. Kind of free-willing. In many places, bohemian, where it isn't hopelessly mercantile, and people trying to make a buck. No one is. No one's calling out to you. No one's trying to pull you into a booth. the business of the city is going on around you, but it's truly around you. Um, in almost all cases, and it's not. I shouldn't say almost all cases. You would say at least half of the people in the area, and this is a little bit with like sort of, am I you leaning towards Virens and saying something to the effect of, am I paranoid, or does it seem as though, you know, most people, and he's like, at least half of the people here are specifically watching us and or avoiding us. And there's a little bit of a squint. Many of them may not may not realize that they're doing it, but they're still doing it. And that is one of the, so that's the sort of the, I guess the suspicious thing is a lot of this behavior may be or unconscious behavior, still antipathy, but not conscious. Not in all cases. There's certainly like absolutely dark looks being cast your way, and there's plenty of people who are just like going by and paying no attention to you whatsoever. You get stall owners and so forth who are still trying to call you in, point out what they have. Travelers looking for rest. You've got your random innkeeper, or rather the like sort of the crier outside of like an inn, or a public house or something like that, who are calling people in. But you also have these weird kind of dissonant moments where you've got like someone, somebody who's trying to entice people into a public house who will call out to you, and someone inside, like the owner or the barkeeper or someone like that, will come out and like grab them by the arm and pull them back in, shaking their head violently, so not them, that kind of a
we are Jonathan Harker going to Transylvania to see the Count.
A bit. Yeah. Some are noticing, some are not. Some are just, seem to have something going on there where they're there's some sort of aversion there that they're not even consciously aware of. You get this a lot in, the stories of, you're like, you're not so much invisible as unnoticeable, and people are stepping around you without realizing that they're doing it, kind of a thing, a little bit. So that's happening as well. What's happening individually, Rowan? I don't know. You have to do a little bit more sort of magical delving kind of thing to figure out what may or may not be going on there, but it's disconcerting at this scope, like the effect.
Well then,
Now,
perhaps then.
It's disconcerting if it's just this borough. It's super disconcerting if it ends up being like the city. Next question. It's terrifying if it's the whole city.
Well then, if Rowan gets a moment with the group around him to kind of like stop and close his eyes and let his senses wander. What do my senses tell me?
What do my senses tell me? The Yeah, I'm just going to give this sort of a magical tint to it, kind of a thing. Or at least, senses in the wizardly sense of the word. These people's said poetically, I guess, these people's vision has been clouded. or tainted or tinted. They're what they see, everything that they're looking mostly inward. And when they choose to look outward, they're seeing those that they envy, those that they have less than, those that they suspect of ill intent or wrongdoing. The city is just generally more these people that are, and it's not everybody, but it lays on them like kind of a cloud. In a weird way, the effect is not dissimilar to uh, kind of what Wynn had been talking about previously with the ghosts. You know, how you could see like she might look like Carabas, but you can still tell the difference. And these people have kind of a pall on them uh, of pettiness and self-absorption, and more so than typical. Some of this may be, to a certain extent, sort of Rowan's own cynicism about, heavily populated cities or whatnot. But no, it's not that, and it isn't everybody, but it is there. Looking at the city, kind of with your two obvious eyes shut, the ones with sort of obvious conscious animosity really seem to have a baleful light to them. The ones that are more unconsciously avoiding you, that kind of thing, are just so wrapped up in their own thing and so suspiciously gazing out at the rest of the world that they see you as just one more thing, one more aspect of the world cast against them. It's a very easily twisted thing, this vision. Whatever has caused this to happen to them is, they'll act against, really instinctively, against whatever target the instigator would have them act against. In most cases, the sense is there that if push came to shove, some of these ones that have this more subtle tainting to them, some would go along with that if push came to shove by whoever had done this to them. Some of them would, like, that push would be enough to kind of break them out of their miasma. And but you wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of that either way if somebody decided to like turn the whole lot of them against you all at once. So you've got probably a small minority, 5 to 10% of them, that are really actively hostile, and then the rest that are sort of tainted or whatever to varying degrees are highly susceptible to whatever it is that has been affecting them. They could be broken out of it, and any individual is going to be easier or harder depending on how deep they are in their how deep the taint is with them, and it seems to vary from person to person. And there's a fair number, quite a fair number, like I said, well, over half probably, that aren't currently affected, or only very lightly so. Almost like a secondhand smoke effect kind of a thing. Questions, follow-up questions to that? Hey. Dave's phone has a question. Hey.
So, this all sounds very bad.
This all sounds very bad. I like that.
I mean, do you want to be in a place where 1 in 4 people might want to punch you at any given moment?
What am I thinking of? Wasn't there some terrible horror movie where I remember like sort of the penultimate scenes of this movie involved a guy going into like a a a, a country club or something, but he knew it was going to be really hostile, so he got the spacesuit that he was going to take to Mars or something because he was an astronaut. And he was like in the spacesuit walking into the country club and looking at, and the scanner in the spacesuit was like highlighting everybody and like outlining them in red going hostile and like outlining the next one hostile. And like they were evil like extraterrestrial creatures from whatever planet that they were on, and he needed this suit because he was literally descending into hell, which was in the basement of the country club. Is this ringing bells for anybody?
No, but it sounds
Dory,
awesome.
I mean, it
what
was
the hell?
Video
was-
game.
it was not a video game. It was like a really terrible like mid 80s, maybe I don't think early 80s, late 70s probably thing. And Jupiter, I think it was even Jupiter that the spaceship was supposed to be, or the spacesuit was supposed to be for. Anyway, but yeah, it gave me kind of flashes of that, of like, you know, various ones hostile. And the weird thing was they didn't do anything to him. They just looked at him balefully until he got down into the basement or wherever he was going. Now I want to Google this, like wearing a spacesuit to battle Satan horror movie. I don't know. Anyway, I like Bill's reaction. Sounds terrible and awesome, or it just sounds awesome. Anyway, question the third, if you have one. Anybody else also, or what have you?
I have one to pitch if Mike doesn't have any better ideas.
Well, I mean,
I'm all for it.
you're helping him scan the area, so it certainly seems to track.
Well, this may not be something that Virens can help with. Tell me about the authorities or the rulers of the city. What are they doing, and what will they do next?
Ooh. I want to answer this with a cutscene that seems kind of that could certainly answer the question on a meta level, but I don't know if it gets you the question answered in character, except for the fact that it basically exposes it to the story and, you know, kind of brings it somewhat front and center. Does that suit, or does that seem like, is that going to be just clunky and weird?
No, I
Yeah.
want the story front and center.
Okay. Well, I get the story front and center thing. It's just going to be, it's not going to be a direct question. So the bit of the scene here is that like sort of Virens, or not Virens, you guys are kind of pulling off to the side a bit out of the immediate flow of the street, and Rowan kind of, you know, bowing his head slightly and closing his eyes, and you know, seeing what we've kind of recounted here, and giving you guys basically the quick lowdown of, you know, what all this means. It's rather easy to get yourself a bit of space on the street, given you've got, you know, at this point in time, you know, mounts in tow. People would be giving you a wide berth anyway, and it's a bit, like I said, it's a metropolitan city. It's not like this is the first time an orc with a, you know, with a battle mount has come through here, but they still give you a wide berth. It's a good way to lose an elbow, or a head, not doing that. But you guys can certainly, you know, get a bit of space. And he lets you know this, and we'll say, you know, Viren sort of poses the question: is like, if this is what's going on here, if this is widespread at all, what could what might the leadership be doing in the city? Have they noticed? Are they taking action? Will they take action? What if we bring this to them? Delete or add to any bit there that Virens might be observing, or it might be as simple as a statement as like, what are the leadership doing? You know, what were the leaders of the city doing? And we go to then a s- uh, a oh, I want a picture of. Let me see if this works. That's almost exactly what I was thinking of. Okay, so give me a second here. I'm gonna go with. Are you guys familiar with the I want to say it's like a Saturday Night Live skit of like the movie producer who's like talking to the writer and he's like, okay, not this, but kind of this. And he just keep pitching these wilder and wilder like movie ideas and keeps coming up with all this stuff. And but every time he's like, so what if it were? I mean, not this, but this, something.
I'm familiar with
Anyway,
the trope, yeah.
yeah. Um, Invitation to Hell, 1984. That certainly sounds.
Well, there's a image link there for you that'll, I think, confirm what you're wondering.
There's also 3 images in the
Yeah,
Discord.
non-human scan. Yeah. God, oh, what a terrible movie.
Made for TV movie in 1984.
And
Wow.
featuring a bunch of well-known actors, though, so it's like,
Made by Wes Craven.
Oh, that tracks.
Oh, look at that hair.
Invitation to Hell. Robert Urich. Yes, yes, it was Robert Urich in the spacesuit.
Susan Lucci. Oh my God. As it looks like the villainess, of course.
yeah, Michael
no,
Berryman is one of the villains. Barrett Oliver from the movie Daryl. There's a bunch of familiar names in there.
Soleil Moon Frye.
The
As like
villainess's name is Jessica Jones.
Saleha Moonfry she was like the little daughter.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And
Sylvester LeVay on the music. He was.
yeah,
Oh,
that
wow.
is 80s hair.
Very much so. Yeah. That's good stuff. I'm going to direct you to this picture here. I want you to begin with Kew Gardens, like the conservatory, the greenhouse, but expand it back away so that that's sort of the start of like the mayor's estate. And like that's the front end of the building that the mayor has. And it is rather unassumedly, as I believe I mentioned that the Ursula has a bond with where is that at? I know the heart of High Mayor Edgar Vergon of Chains Cross, and we're going to put this little estate right here in where are we? Vergon Gardens, right here. And kind of starting with something that looks that sort of style, that weird kind of bulbous. I'm sure there's a architectural style that's probably meant to be part of. But take that and stretch it back another 100 yards into really kind of a palace kind of a thing. It definitely I mean, it's being used as the mayor's estate, but it's definitely way older than that. You're looking at some remnant of the Ophir, ownership of the city, and probably still at that point in time, still like sort of the estate of whoever was that was running the place or anything like that. But he's rather famously or infamously renamed the gardens after his family, ostensibly for his great grandfather or something who did something heroic. But still did it in his lifetime and is now living in the gardens of his name, of his estates, sort of in the center of the city, or somewhat near the center of the city. I'm so glad that my brain provided. Oh, you want the greenhouse in Kew Gardens, and I was actually right. Anyway, so that's right about yonder, and we're kind of we're looking at an open. You know what I want? I want. Let's find the next thing I need here. The next visual reference. Yeah, that'll work. So I'm really at this point just relying on you guys to kind of know this movie well enough to know the kind of place I'm talking about. Not this person. This has nothing to do with the person in the picture at all. I promise. But if you're familiar with Howl's Moving Castle, and when they go to visit Solomon in, I say Howl's Moving Castle, the animated movie done by Miyazaki, but when they go to visit Solomon and the space that Solomon is in, so it's sort of like the open, really kind of wide open, but still glass enclosed kind of observatory that looks out onto the gardens kind of thing. That's the space. Disregard all
Solarium.
the solarium.
Yeah. We have a solarium?
It's the whole thing is, I mean, the whole front end is practically a solarium. So down at one end, on one of the sort of rounded wings on one end, we see the mayor sitting at a small table with the tea set there, looking out at the greenery, holding his tea with the platter not actually up against the cup, but below it, and seems to suddenly remember that he's got the cup in his hand and raises it to his lips and takes a quick sip, and then goes to actually sort of set it actually on the platter that he's on his palm, and just a very distinct chittering teeth kind of rattle of it being set down on the thing, because his hand is shaking. And that happened just for a few seconds. You get like just a quick little, and he quickly lifts it back up so that the rattle does not draw attention to itself, and he continues to hold it in that slightly above the platter, the platter saucer. Thank you. God, my brain. Above the saucer without actually letting it touch. And we look at the rest of the, so the immediate space in the solarium, and perhaps understand the reason for his nervousness, because standing somewhat back in the as much shadows as you get in this kind of space, but back towards the wall, it's more solid. Is one of the Ophir. Oheir, which we immediately recognize, full body armor, Sifley, kind of not lurking, but looming, near the back, kind of in the shadows. Eki of Bornair, up near the glass, 1 foot up, kind of on the, the stone that the glass windows are set onto, so 1 leg up, kind of, just striking a pose, because of course he is. Nope, not paying attention to the mayor at all. They just seem to be sort of arrayed around him. And standing sort of facing the mayor back about 6 feet. That same hooded, obscured figure that we saw that we been introduced to in the previous flash of the city and that sort of thing. Sibyllus, the whisperer, who's now sort of murmuring or in a voice that carries. He seems to be speaking to the mayor. It's like, they have arrived in the city. It is disturbing. It has caused a ripple throughout the population. The arrival of Green-Handed. It could, and then another voice. And as soon as this voice comes, the shake, the visible sort of tremor in the mayor's hand stills. And his back straightens, and his smile returns. A confident sort of ever so slightly endearingly lopsided smirk. Like it's a smile, it's a politician's smile, but there's a little bit of a cockeyedness to it that makes you think, yeah, I'm a politician, but I'm not really a politician. I mean, we're not taking ourselves too very seriously, are we? That kind of a smile. It all just seems to just come flowing back into this. It's not his voice that causes this. It's a voice that comes from behind him that immediately stills the whisperings of Sibyllus. They're nothing. They're chasing their own tails, imagining it to be our shadow. It's unimportant. You have done great work here. You have brought these ungrateful, petty woodmongers to heal. And for that, I am very grateful. You have done great things. And that tremoring that we saw in the mayor, that was one of fear directed at those people who are arrayed around them, these creatures of great power and terror and this thing, seems to almost transfer itself to Sibyllus. But in this case, the tremor is not of fear. It's this like a shudder of pleasure at the words and compliments as Ursula steps up behind the mayor and lays a hand on his shoulder. The mayor speaks for the city and speaks to the city and does what is needed where all can hear, and you speak into that ear that only the heart can hear. And between the two of you, the city is ours. It is ours already. They can do nothing. Once we have them, and your whispers begin to spread out away from the city as they have already done, then we will drop this benighted stone and suck the life from the emerald heart and be that much closer to our goal. And they will know none of it. What could they possibly do? That said, we can't have troublemakers roaming about, possibly tripping inexpertly along and distracting our good right and left hands. She says, sort of gesturing at Eki and Sifle. Distracting our good right and left hand again. So, Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, I think a little law and order may be in that, maybe in order. A little law and order may be necessary. And he stands up. Yes, sets his saucer down, sets his cup down. A little law and order. My pleasure, my lady. If you'll all excuse me, I will see to the running of this. I will see to the running of my city. He still doesn't different bits of hesitation. He can't quite find the right words to say anything, and he sort of looks about and as though he's going to say more, and he can't quite think of what to say, and he kind of then nods a bit and kind of nods. He tilts his head somewhat sideways and puts his hands behind his back, like he's going into parade rest, except he then turns and he starts walking out with his hands clasped behind him and, head held high, and I'm about my business and I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm about. And, off he goes. And, Eki looks as though he's about to say something and then doesn't. A dissenting opinion, perhaps, as to whether or not city guardsmen or whatever it is that the mayor may be able to muster are actually going to have any be sufficient to the task set to them. He chooses not to, and instead, when he opens his mouth to say whatever it is, he gives his head a little bit of a shake and says, "And we are to continue on the plan?" Yes, absolutely. Please. With all due haste, we will. Much of the city has. It is less than it once was, obviously, but we still should be able to do what is necessary here, and obviously the power to be gleaned will be more than sufficient for the next stage. Eki, if you won't mind, pave the way to the Emerald Pit, and Sifle, my good general. And she walks over to her and kind of hands her this kind of ivory, crystal embedded sort of ivory wand and says, see if you can't wake the device. I realize that, and there's a bit of a head tilt, a question in the body language of the general. And and Tenebrius is like, I know. It wasn't part of the plan, because honestly, what are the odds that it's still going to have what I hope it may have? But if we don't try, it definitely won't benefit us. So we must at least try. And who could I possibly send if not you? If nothing comes of it, fine. And if something comes of it, well, I think I could find something to do with a caged god, don't you? And Eki kind of snorts a bit at that and shakes his head like, you're all just adorable kind of thing. And that's what we'll cut away from there. Everyone being very quiet except Dave just typing madly.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you for the time check. I appreciate that. And noticed it for a wonder, which is always useful. Okay, so questions out there. We have weirdness out throughout the people. Lots of corrupting influence throughout the population of the city. Not everybody, but a disconcerting amount, at least where you are. You might be able to get a sense of where that's emanating from, or in roaming about the city, see where it's worse or not as bad. and thus be able to see like maybe where some of this is originating from. Um, and as far as what the leadership are up to, we will be running into some of that shortly. What do you do? Or actually, I'm going to ask a slightly different question. When, how close would you have to be to know that one of your kind are here? Given that you're both similar in nature, you're both revenants, I should say.
Remnant.
Revenant.
And was it confirmed that she's?
Sifley is definitely here.
Well, no. I mean,
Confirm that she's
remnant.
what?
I
That she's a.
wasn't sure whether or not she was
She is.
in undead or just extended life.
She is certainly something unnatural, and you have faced her, and you have whether she's exactly the same as you. I don't think she probably is, because your origin is sort of born of the the death of millions, and the fall of the city and that sort of thing, and an oath that you refuse to give up, and that sort of thing. Hers is much more a function of her adherence to Tenebrius and that sort of thing. But you're both O'Here. You're the last O'Here, and you have faced each other face to face, and exchange blows, exchange wounds. Weren't you doing that thing where you're sort of teetering back and forth from being like that funky thing you can do where you're like, this should like completely take me out, but instead I'm gonna just keep rocking back and forth over that. Yeah, that kind of thing while you were fighting her. So you have some sense of what she. Now it may be just the thing of like, oh, we've walked into the same city square and I know that she's here. Or it could be, Darth Vader, I feel something, a presence I've not felt since, because he's somewhere on the Death Star. Or, I don't know, or somewhere in between. So I don't know if you would be starting to get that weird back of the neck feeling that Sifley is somewhere in the city or not. Was somebody gonna say something?
Well, if James doesn't have an immediate idea, I want to make a suggestion based on the thing that he wrote.
Okay.
Ooh.
I had a thought, but I'm more than open to suggestions.
I want to hear your thought first then.
Oh, I was going to say, it's possible, like some sense, since, beyond, or when we had fought, there was ancient oaths being invoked and stuff, so that's not likely to go away quickly. But I feel like any back of the neck, something is weird that I'm feeling at the moment would probably more attribute to here for centuries we're told not to go to Kane's Crossing.
So you might be sensing something and not realizing that it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the Wiggins, but I just assumed it was the Wiggins of, oh, we pissed off a god here and I was told never to come back.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I'm very curious what
Yeah.
the other suggestion was.
So you've got Hior, the god of the wind. You've got this association of birds. It just seemed like it would be interesting to see like this flock of like crows or some like ominous bird that's been kind of hovering over us this whole time, like up in the sky, and you notice, you see them up there and you're like, oh god damn it again. And then you look over the gardens or the
Oh,
the mayor's palace is, and there's another pack just like it.
That is the serious Wiggins.
I love it. I love that so much. And I love the fact, I mean, I didn't really, I hadn't put it together like, God of the Wind and like birds don't like you. And, oh, yeah, that would make sense that those two things are connected. Um, but yeah, you're kind of glaring up, and then as you're turning back away from the annoying birds in the sky that have, and you see these things in the distance, like, huh, well, shit. Um, I like that a lot. Um, okay, so, uh, so you, um, so you have that. I'm not going to call it anything more dignified than a hunch that Sifleys may be around. Maybe it's the Wiggins, maybe it's the birds, maybe it's a combination of the two, but the feeling is that there's something afoot there. Whether or not you say anything about it, anything like that, it's up to you. Virens, certainly this is hostile territory. So laying that out there with regards to, and certainly seems to be instinctively, not like, and I'm saying this at a meta level, it's not like directions were left. When these people show up, bad, they're at some level sort of an instinctual reaction to the Harbinger, to Rowan. So for whatever intent, he's attracting ire.
I think orcs are culturally used to this. What would surprise Virens is that he's not the target.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No one seems to be I mean, certainly there are people who are like sidestepping and giving the hairy eyeball to your, wolfy companion and yourself, festooned with, but it is a cosmopolitan city, or it likes to think of itself as such. So that's more subtle prejudice, automatic assumptions, and racism you're just sort of used to. It's not like this weird, invitation to hell kind of thing going on. My God, the stuff that gets stuck in your head. I mean, I was what, 13, 14? Ugh, God. And yet I managed to avoid ever watching Hawk the Slayer. So anyway,
I'll just note that it's apparently on YouTube and there's a link in Discord.
Oh God, thank you so much.
All right, I gotta watch this.
You know what it is? The whole thing is on YouTube, or is it just like that scene where he goes into the?
It's an hour and 34-minute video.
Sweet, merciful crap! That's terrible. It's just so bad. I mean, Robert Urich at the height of his acting career. I mean, you think about it, it's made-for-TV movie. I was stuck out in South Dakota. If it was a made-for-TV or rebroadcast for television thing, I probably watched it, and I probably watched it multiple times, because really, what the hell other option did I have? I had most of the various episodes of Hee Haw memorized at one point. I mean, anyway, so Carabas, you've got your cat Wiggins, basically. I mean, you've seen cats. I don't think I need to tell you that having a bunch of people look in inimical fashion in your general direction is going to make you want to bolt. Just because, cats. I have to share, because this reminded me just instantaneously. We were up in Glenwood Springs this weekend, and we were getting ready to head home. We were going to catch the train back home. And we decided to do a quick little early mid-morning kind of hike up a couple blocks away from the train station, and then up a little half-mile trail that leads up to Potter's Field, where Doc Holliday is buried. And so you're kind of going through really just a little residential, small houses kind of area, and the houses are very unevenly taken care of. Some of them are practically falling in, and others are very nicely done up, little cottages and whatnot. And one of them is a witch's hut. I don't know how to explain it any other way. It's if it were bigger, it would be the set of a house with a clock in its walls. Like if it were any bigger whatsoever. But it has this lovely little archway over the sidewalk that leads to the place. It's a couple steps down to the sidewalk that leads right up to the front door. The whole place is done up in sort of natural wood shingles and everything like that. And it just looks like a small set for a tiny little house, a small little cozy house for a Halloween movie. And we're walking past it, and Kate looks to the right, looks at it, and says, "That is an adorable, spooky little house." And as she says it, a black cat comes scooting out of the archway, runs past her and us up the sidewalk about 7 or 8 paces, stops, sits down, licks its paw twice, and then lays down completely across the sidewalk in our path. And I'm like, what just happened? Are we in a movie? Are we in a Disney movie? Because seriously, that's about as telegraphed as you can get. It was adorable. Anyway, but yeah, so imagine your cat reaction here to sort of the general attention, general unfriendly attention from the area. And while Rowan is sort of pondering what to do with whatever he's sensed and what his next move is going to be, I will tell you, Carabas, that you can hear in the distance something that doesn't really seem to suit this city. A sound that doesn't really seem to suit this city, because this is a mercantile place. This is trade. This is cosmopolitan, and laughter and joking and jests and friendly rivalries of various businesses, and so things that it's very human. Strikes you as being very human. And you hear marching booted feet. It's not close, but it's close enough to hear faintly.
Well, in my experience, that's always been a good sign.
That's always been a good sign?
No, it has not.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, Rowan's experience is different than mine. Carabas at this moment is probably the only one who's detected that, so I'm giving you that information. And I will bring it back around to Rowan and see what do you want to do? What do you do? We're coming up on the time here. With the information that you have and given what you know. You haven't spotted immediately anything that immediately puts you in mind of that fountain. And the place, honestly, where you're at in this particular area looks as though it's in somewhat better repair than that beaten up, broken down, beat up fountain that you have sort of a flashbulb image of in your mind from your prophecy. There was trading. There were those kind of tented booze and that sort of thing, but it was that area was maybe more run down, older, or more lower, meaner, like another trading area, another place where the trade and business and stuff happens, but maybe not this particular area. Just maybe you were this but not this. You're not sure, or it could be you just need to find the more rundown area of this of the black web.
Well, this obviously isn't, or no, this isn't obviously the place. It's like, well, this isn't how I remember this. There should be a fountain somewhere. You need to find a fountain.
We might want to do that before the marching boots arrive at our location.
Ooh.
Well, that's not a good sign.
They seem to be coming from the west. So if you were to head, really either
Well, since
south
we're on
or
the eastern edge of the city. So.
yeah, well that's yeah, I guess that kind of but sort of well, actually, where would they have to be coming from? Kind of. I'm getting my actually no, yeah, I take that back. They're coming more from the south, like kind of from this direction, or at least as much as you're able to make that out. So, yeah, we'll let you know from the sort of the central section of the city ish. Or if you want to look at the map, they're coming down to the outer edges of the, you know, from on high. Oops. Oops for nobody else but me, but anyway. So there's yeah. And we'll stop there with Carapace thing. Whatever we decide to do, we should probably do it before the booted feet get here. And we will pause there. Stop there. I think stop there.
Okay.
That good? That good for folks?
Yeah.
All right, tons to do coming up here. I feel like the stage has been set for hijinks to ensue, and whatnot. There's going to be a lot of kung fu in the streets here, I imagine, probably pretty soon, or at least running, which is practically the same thing. Do we want to do the end of session thing, or would you want to? I kind of like it at the beginning of the session, but I don't know. Up to you guys.
I mean, we can just spread more level up around.
Spread more level up. Spread more love around. We could certainly do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's probably just learn more about the world. Is that? I think we have one yes. Is that?
Yeah, I don't think we've protected a community or stricken a blow against the Overlord yet.
There, stuff will happen next session. Also, probably
The Overlord is about to strike a blow against us, but like, don't think we get points for that.
It's not exactly the same thing. I mean, you know, bragging points, I guess, sort of. Hey, Ursula's in town. Yay! We get to do Ursula. Yay! Maybe. Let's see if we can't get her on stage here pretty quick. All right. So, yeah, who do we want to? We're probably leveling folks. So, who do we pick? Who shall it be? We did Rowan, which means it can't be Rowan. It can't be Ursula. I'm going to take the easy one. I pick Carapace because he had the ghost thing kind of from last time. And, you know, that sort of thing. And also I kind of ignored Dade this session, so I feel bad. So.
And I want to nominate Win because I want to see them throw down against.
Sure, I can go with that.
It's funny because that's the exact same reason I was going to.
Yeah,
say that.
let's level up Win because Win's gonna throw down against Sifley. I like that.
And maybe this time we can do it without.
It taking 2 sessions and horrible.
I was gonna say without having to like almost die to do it.
I mean,
Come as close to death as I can.
I mean, if you want, I guess. Guess not dying, whatever. All right, so we'll let Win figure that out for next session, and we'll let Carapace figure that out for next session. And meantime, I don't think we have any. Well, I will stop now. First of all, thanks guys very much. Nice to after the weird last week. Oh God, miserable last week. Blech. And I'm playing catch up from being gone on holiday for a couple of days. Work.
And
It's good to get back to this.
I also sent you a DM a couple days ago, Joyce.
I did,
on
and
Discord.
I saw it, and I was up in the mountains, and every time I tried to reply, it was like, "No, Discord hates you."
I figured like when you got back and were ready to talk that you could let me know.
Yeah, I have thoughts about that, and I definitely want to. I mean, obviously, since Sifley's sort of back on the board, definitely want to ping that. So expect something. My free time during the day is a little bit less free and more.
I can also just like write up a big forum private message and see what you think of that.
Yeah.
And you can tell me what you think of that
Yeah,
after that.
we'll do that. I mean, that certainly was profitable when we did some various things in masks and stuff like that. And I would be able to probably respond to that in a, if not timely, then more complete fashion than trying to sneak time for Discord right now.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay,
Okay.
I'll do that.
Very cool. Yeah, and yeah, so Bill has plans for Sifley, which will enhance and sweeten wins impending stuff. I'm sure it'll be awesome.
I
for
wouldn't
us.
say plans, but yeah, we'll
Suggestions.
We'll see.
Such fun, such fun entertainments. All right, thanks guys, thanks so much. Dave, please pass along regrets to not having Margie along for this. Certainly looking
I will
forward
do
to
so.
getting her back where she can get in, but absolutely complete understanding for going. Yeah, no, not tonight. I know them feels. I think
And
otherwise.
as far as I can tell, we should be good for next week. So
Yeah, I think that's probably true for me also, and hopefully true for everybody else. So we will see you next week.